Hello and welcome to Capital Market Live on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams. Time to summarize all that happened in the markets this week. Definitely a very eventful week with President Bola Tinubu ringing the closing bell at the Nasdaq and definitely trying to attract investment into the country. But first, let's get a summary of global markets performance we track for the week. Starting in Europe, see European markets close lower, prospects of higher for longer rates. The pan-European stocks 600 ended session down there about 0.03, and the DAX that was at 15,557 points was marginally down. It's closed on Friday 0.09%, while the FTSE and the UK is the lone gainer right there in Europe, up 0.07%, even though it's marginal at 7,683 points. I will take it now to Asia, where Asia-Pacific markets were mixed as the Bank of Japan left its monetary policy unchanged after its latest meeting concluded on Friday with some markets pairing losses earlier in the day. The central bank kept rates at 0.1% and capped the 10-year Japanese government bond yield around 0. So we see the Nikkei there, that was down 0.52%. Shanghai Composite 1.55% at 3,132 points. While the Hang Seng Index closed 18,057 points, up 1.55%. Let's head on to the U.S. now. So U.S. stocks retreated on Friday, concluding what has been a tough week for the market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average just slid 106.58 points, closed down 0.31%. And the Nasdaq, tech-heavy Nasdaq, yeah, that's where President Bola Tinubu rang the closing bell. That closed down 0.09%, 13,211 points, while the S&P 500 closed down 0.23% at 4,320 points. An iconic moment there with President Bola Tinubu in company of President of U.S. Africa Business Center, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, ringing the Nasdaq closing bell in New York at the end of the day's trading session. During the symbolic event on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, the president called on U.S. investors to explore opportunities in Nigeria. He assures them that all bottlenecks have been removed to provide an enabling business environment for investors. Take a listen.
I am happy to bring Nigeria to your doorsteps and honored that we are here today with a bubbling market that will evolve West Africa's sub-region. The greatest economy is Nigeria. There's an immense opportunity in Nigeria that you can invest your money without fear. We've removed a lot of bottlenecks. We've clear the oil subsidy that is corrupt, and we have also retooled the exchange rate to a reliable, dependable, one-figure floating of the exchange naira. You are free to take in your money and bring out your money. I count on you to invest in Nigeria. Be confident in that.
Closing bell, Crystal. We're so honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Definitely an iconic moment there with President Tinubu ringing the closing bell at the Nasdaq, United States of America. Well, join us now to make sense of the economic importance of this is Mr. Ewaride Longe, MD, NSD OT Exchange, joining me right here in the studio. Great to have you, and definitely an iconic moment we saw there.
Yes.
Tell me, how did it feel for you, seeing the president, ringing the closing bell for the Nasdaq, even though it did close in the red marginally, but yes, that's no pun intended there, but not as bad as other markets on Wall Street. But break it down for me. This moment, how did you see it?
Well, it's an iconic moment for us in Nigeria.
Right.
It's a signal to open engagement with the global community, the global economic community. But for me, I think that there is a lot of bolts and nuts work that is required. People want to see what you offer. People want to see you on the global stage, but they also want to feel what you have to offer when you come back to your country. And I think that's the message. I don't think that for Nigeria that we should promise magic.
Right.
I think we need to calm down, do a few things properly, do them efficiently, and do them consistently.
Because definitely the Naira has been under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, this week it did. Some say it did touch the 1,000 Naira to the dollar.
Yes.
You know, this week in the parallel market. But we also see, you know, some significant gains in the
Yes.
official in the official window. So, you know, with what we've seen, you
Yes.
know, and how the president, you know, spoke, you know, assuring investors, you know, out there that once you bring your money in, you're going to be able to take it out, you know, easily. Do you think he's been able to calm the nerves of, you know, foreign portfolio investors at this point somehow?
I think these are the beginnings of the conversation. The right message is being sent. The right things are being done. But like I say, it's not going to be magic. I don't think we need to say we've been the first, we've been the second, we've done the best, you know. I think we need to sit down and think through what needs to be done. There's a very useful combination today of dreamers and tactical thinkers. That's what we require. And that combination must be translated into the activity of governance and our social construct. You know, that's what is really, really important. So you see, when you look at the Naira, the situation with the exchange rate, the policy is in the right direction, you know, but I think that we need to apply the bolts and the nuts. Let's think through what the issues are and try to look to see that we improve supply of the market. It's a very difficult job to be a president.
Very, very difficult.
Very
definitely.
difficult
and
job.
It seems right now the Naira is being, you know, hit on all sides. Yes. Everyone is, you know, reaching for the dollar.
Yes.
You know, at this point, and definitely we would like to see, you know, demand for the Naira, you know, at some point to, you know, help the Naira strengthen and stabilize. But what do you think, you know, the president can do in the short term, you know, right now?
Well, we all have said what the short term will be. The short term
maybe
is
to alleviate some of that pain, because definitely that comes with pain.
I'm not so sure about alleviating pain. I am more. I would suggest more that we should be strategic and organized about the way we approach policy. Because much of what is happening is dissonance, you know. We've done the right things, but we haven't followed up with the tactics. That's really, really important. And that's speaking to orderliness in how we approach our government policy execution. You know, I think that we should just calm down. It's very difficult. It is excruciating for everyone. But I think that if we just calm down a little and put some reasonable tactics to work, we will begin to see some of these things recede. I don't think that the Naira rate is 1,000 to, the dollar rate is 1,000 Naira to $1. I don't think it is. You know, so I think in organizing the markets, in actually getting down to the basics of what needs to be done with the economic actors in that regard, we will begin to address the rates and to begin to roll back. And then we now kick into the medium and long-term activities that will actually sustain it.
Right, and definitely we have a new acting, you know, governor, of CBN, and he has a lot to do, at this time when it comes to the Naira, and we're all looking forward to the rate-setting meeting. That was supposed to be next week.
Yes.
But that's been postponed. We're going to get a future date for that.
So that's a problem for me, actually, because, in a significant institution like the CBN, you don't sweep out the old guard and do not have some kind of plan for who's going to supervise the ship. So there's so many things that happen when the master is not around. So think about it. You swept out all the governors, all the deputy governors, and the governor, and we haven't stepped in with the new team in acting capacity, which is about to happen now. That is a gap, and I think that is responsible for a lot that has rushed into the markets in the last week. Things will begin to calm down gradually as they settle in. I think things will go well. Right. I think we're doing the right things. We need to stay the course. I think for us in Nigeria, for us Nigerians, where we feel pain, where we feel that there's a criticism about where things should go, rather than throw it outside of the window, we should think about it like as patriots and say, how can we make it better? What are the suggestions we can make to get this to work? We should have thought leaders that carry us in that direction. It's just one country. Regardless of what the opinions are, if it works, eventually it works for all of us.
Right, and it's the only one we have at this point. So tell me, looking at what Mr. Cardoso is walking to, at this point, how difficult, on a scale of 1 to 10, do you think it's going to be for him?
Well, I think I don't think it's a scale of 1 to 10. I think it's a scale of it's a scale of beyond 10.
Wow.
It is really daunting. There is no money, and then there is also the challenge of trying to reorder the financial system. So we also realize that we must have friends quickly, and that's the reason why the president and his associates have gone abroad and have made significant appearances on the global stage. But I think that for the CBN, I believe what needs to happen is that the CBN should focus on monetary policy and deal with monetary policy. Don't deal with development economics.
What about the interventions?
Well, what interventions are we talking about?
Sinanko Boros program with farmers.
All of that is
to support manufacturers.
All of that is in my view, that's a distraction to the CBN governor. There are other actors within the economy that can come in. I think that the capital markets, which is the show we're on, ought to step in and do a lot more. I think the capital markets, as I've said on this show before, there has to be a custodianship of visioning from the capital markets. We need to set the tone for where we will see certain activities in the markets. Where do we want to see the entertainment and creatives industry?
One of our biggest exports now.
How do we support that industry from the capital market? Nobody's dealing with that. As I always say, I think many people who know me are very, very familiar with my passion for logistics, and particularly the railways.
Right.
And you can see the pent-up demand that we have experienced in the blue rail line that has partially started. There's a long way to go with that. We need to do 10 times more of that. That's bolts and nuts. That's right. Dreaming and bolts and nuts.
Dreaming and bolts and nuts. All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll be talking about activities. We'll talk about what happened on the NESD OTC exchange.
Yes.
That's what we're going to be talking about next. So stay with us. This is Capital Market Live on Channels Television. Welcome back. Well, let's get a summary of what happened on the NASD OTC Securities Exchange Index. Well, it closed the trading week in the green. The listed equities index was up about 0.41%. However, turnover was positive. Volume traded jumped by over 500% to 28.70 million units, while value rose by 25% to close at 142.39 million naira. Food Concepts PLC topped the gains chart for the week, while NASD PLC led the decliners trading for the week. Well, I still have with me Mr. Waride Longe, MD, NASD OTC Exchange, still right here with me in the studio. Thank you so much for staying on and sharing your weekend with me. So kindly give us an appraisal of activities on the exchange, year to date.
Yeah. So I think I'll say that we haven't really been satisfied with what we have achieved against what we set out to do. But it's been quite positive. I mean, with the post-election bounce also on our markets, 14% on the NSI, that is the NASD stock index, 14% positive. Market capitalization, 22%. And there's been somewhat of a decent increase in the value of shares traded on our market. So that's positive. But we have thought that we needed to, just like we were speaking about before, to broaden our markets. We need to get in more securities. We need to integrate our market more with the real economy. It's happening, but it is slow in coming. I think that we were a bit not naive, but we were a bit optimistic, eagerly optimistic about what we could achieve. But we also have found, like the Nigerian government is finding, that bolts are not must take effect,
Bolts are not.
Must take effect, and you must begin to put the engagements together, resource them,
right,
build them up, and then you can deploy. So we're on course, but we thought that we would be ahead of the curve that we are at now.
And I'm sure very soon you'll actually get to where you want to be, definitely.
Yes.
But talk to me about the top 5 performing securities on the exchange and in terms of ROI.
Yes.
Year to date.
So what I'd say is it's interesting here because it's not the usual suspects that we begin to see, maybe 1 or 2 of them. But the highest performing security in the markets today is a company called Geofluids. It's an oil services company, 314% return on the markets, followed by IGI, Industrial and General Insurance. So, and then a usual suspect, Aradel, which used to be Niger Delta, has done 203%. And then we have, I think it's the petroleum company. I can't remember the name exactly now. And then there's Afriland Properties. So those companies, the other companies other than Aradel have really been bargain hunting by investors who are looking to buy a significant portion of the companies and turn them around, and in the quest to gain what you might call a controlling premium, you then find that the prices begin to move upward. So that's the kind of thing that we're seeing on the market now.
Definitely not bad gains. They're over 300%.
Not at all.
Definitely interesting.
Not at all.
But we've got to, improved compliance with, regulation guiding, trading on the exchange. What growth in new admissions have you registered, this year?
Yeah, so, that's what I was talking about breadth of the market. We need to bring in more companies. So we have listed, or we have admitted three companies. Purple Real Estate Incorporated is a real estate investment company, does commercial real estate and residential real estate as well. And then we have a paint company, IPWA, which is an old company, which is now being admitted onto the market with the shareholders of the past, bringing them to trade on the market. And then we have a Lagos Building Investments Corporation, a mortgage company.
So we're seeing a lot of attention to real estate.
Real estate, oh yes. I mean, I think maybe we'll talk about that if there's time. There's an interesting area. I mean, and that really is, I think it's one of the drivers for this government, and it requires some diligence to get it done.
Right. All right. Talk to me about private markets and securities trading. That seems to be, gaining ground globally.
Yes. So for us, I mean, our private market is under what we call the NESD Enterprise Portal. And it is really driven by the small and medium enterprises that are budding to embrace the capital market discipline. So for all those entities, you can't be too stringent about what you bring onto the market. But what we've done is to put this in a market structure and showcase it to investors, handhold the companies, help them develop by mentoring and exposing them to the market discipline, and then seeing that they become you might call the new generation of winners. That is how we must grow this economy. We have to there must be, when you see growth, when you see growth, you can feel it.
Right, you don't have to be told, really.
You don't have to be told. You need to see some of these companies in various sectors. They're very exciting to us. It takes time to help them develop.
Right.
One of the things that we're trying to do is to promote an initiative that allows for what you might call corporate savings of big companies that are able to contribute to a pool that then has a connection to funding some of these companies.
Right, so much to look out for there. But, as the year is about to, wind down, what are you expecting, towards the end of the year and, going into 2024?
Well, we have a few transactions on hand. We have one very major initiative which we had spoken about earlier on in the beginning of the year. We are now at the point of executing, albeit in a controlled format by the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's called regulatory incubation of our digital securities platform. Now, what a digital securities platform does is it is powered by blockchain, and what it then helps to do is that it helps to fractionalize ownership of shares very easily. It lends the offering of those shares to jurisdictions that are broader than our shores.
Right.
And it also taps into that interesting demography of new investors.
Exactly.
And so we are very excited about that. The Securities and Exchange Commission has taken a very bold lead in this, and they've allowed us to implement this via a sandbox that is regulatory incubation, to test it, see how it seeds, and then we can expand it.
Quite interesting how blockchain is playing into traditional markets. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Iwaride Longe, MD, NESD OTC Exchange. It was great having you today.
Thank you.
And sharing your weekend with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's bring you what to expect the Nigeria's capital market for next week. At the money market, traders expect the OVN rate to remain depressed. That's next week, as we believe the expected inflows from the FGN bond coupon payment on 202.34 billion will likely keep the system afloat. For the bonds market, traders expect yields in the FGN bond 70 market to remain elevated. And lastly, for the local equities market, traders anticipate cautious trading due to the absence of significant positive catalysts to boost sentiment as the third quarter ends within the week. All right, that's the show today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. I'll see you again next Saturday. Bye for now.